This is the Grind to Greatness podcast, your dose of unapologetic tough love. These are your hosts, Mary Hodges and Ashley Kane.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Grind to Greatness podcast. This is Mary Hodges and I'm here with my co-host Ashley Kane. And we have a really exciting episode for you guys today. We're going to do things a little differently. Normally when we're preparing episodes for you guys, we kind of prepare an outline of points that we want to make sure we touch. And of course, we always leave you with action steps. Today we are going to do a little freestyle. We're going to be talking about this book called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. This book kind of fell into my lap by accident. I was thinking about how I could live my life more intentionally, travel more, do the things in life that I wanted to do. And somehow, as I was just searching online for things, this idea of the top 5 regrets of the dying came up. And it was this lady, her name's Bonnie Ware, and she had worked in hospice with elderly people who were basically on their last breath. And so she had come across a lot of people that expressed their last regrets at the last moments of their life to her. And she started recognizing a pattern and seeing that these people, no matter what their situation was, no matter where they came from, were expressing 5 similar regrets that she just kept hearing over and over again. And she thought it would be useful for us that still have time here on this earth to share that with people. And I think this is going to be really eye-opening for our listeners today because it was for me when I read it. So the first one, I wish I had the courage to live the life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Our whole mission here at the Grind to Greatness is people living life true to themselves. So Ashley, when you heard this first regret, what was your initial reaction?
We've been talking about a topic like this probably every episode. It's kind of what the foundation of the Grind to Greatness is all about. When I was thinking about this first regret, there's a lot of expectations that come along with life and people who expect some things from you, whether it's a loved one or your job or your business, yourself. So I think the most important thing to take away from that is really to kind of go back to that episode where we talked about the yes and the no. Saying yes to things that align with your true self and saying no to things that doesn't fit for you and that doesn't work for you. Also not trying to live up to other people's expectations so much. For me, I think that's a big one, and it's a lesson that I learned that I'm still learning. I think if you have to go through your whole life like that would be a huge regret. You know, it sounds a little bit sad and disheartening, but we still have time left, like Mary said, so we don't have to just have so much pressure on us to live what people think that how we should.
Yeah, I have my own personal experience. I remember when I was thinking about going to law school, the first thought that came into my head was, this would really make my parents proud. Because I was the first kid that graduated college, so from that point on, it was like, oh, this would be something else that I think would make my parents proud, because that was really important to me. My parents made a lot of sacrifices for my family. There were 6 of us. It was not always easy. There was a lot of financial stress and things like that, and obviously stress of just having 6 kids running around. And I just felt like this overwhelming duty to do something that would make them proud. And maybe not necessarily listen to really what my true passions were and kind of follow that. I'm kind of glad that at some point along the line, that at least within the law, I've kind of found an area that excites me more. I mean, I had no idea what that was going to look like when I first decided, law school would be a great idea because it will make other people proud. It had nothing to do with me, you know? And now that we're here doing this podcast, and I love incorporating health and wellness into the things that I do, so I feel like I'm becoming more along that path. But there was definitely some times where I made decisions because I thought those were the things that other people wanted from me. Some of you out there may feel that sense of obligation to other people. Some people come from a family where there's a lot of pressure to be doctors or be a lawyer or some type of family occupation. And so you might find yourself doing things that don't really speak to who you really are. And I think it's important for us to remember that it's our life. We only get one of them. So we might as well live it to the fullest, and we might as well do something that makes us happy.
The second regret is, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. This is kind of a double-edged sword, I think, for me when I think about this. So yes, we are overworked We do too much work. We work more hours than a lot of other countries around the world. And a lot of other countries value enjoying life a lot more than we do. And that's one thing that I think we try to put out on the Grind to Greatness is really enjoying your life and not just living and paying bills. But once again, there's so much pressure to have big houses and nice newer cars and, nice clothes and to look a certain way and to travel. And there's all this pressure to do and have all these nice things. But I know as I've gotten older, I really want to simplify and kind of be more of a minimalist because I hate paying stupid bills like electric bills and things that, extremely high rent or high mortgage. But we work so hard to pay our bills and then we don't have the time or the money, it could be either one, to enjoy your life. You may work so hard and you have the money to do it, but you don't have the time to do it. Or you may work really hard and you have some time, but you don't have the financial resources to maybe travel or take your family on a vacation. And it also comes along with, okay, if it's a passion of mine, is it really working too hard? For me, it could go either way.
I think there has to be a balance, though, no matter what you're doing, because if you have a family, they obviously deserve your time. There are other things in your life you deserve. We talked about me time. You also deserve time to unwind. I think the notion of working too hard, that doesn't surprise me that this is a regret just because of all the data that Ashley kind of hit on just a second ago. Like I said, people work really hard to buy houses they can't afford that they don't even get to spend time in. So they don't even get to enjoy the things that they have. That deserves a lot of pause, in my opinion. Even if you're working on your passion, work is not the only thing in life. In my opinion, your health should come before everything else, because if you're not healthy, then you can't do everything else or you can't show up for the other people in your life in the best way. I struggled with this when I first started my business. I would skip the gym because I felt like I had to get all this stuff done. And quickly was like, I'm going to run out of gas. If I don't take care of my body, if I don't take care of my mind, then I'm not going to be able to do these things that I need to do for my job. I'm not going to be the person that I want to be for my family or the people I love if I don't have my mind and body right. So in my opinion, your health should take complete precedence over your work always. Because if you don't have that, then your work's going to suffer anyways. I follow Michael Hyatt, and he gives a lot of great advice. He makes multiple 7 figures a year running an online business, and he is super adamant about not working any time outside the hours of between 9 and 6. And, anything before and after that, that's for his family, that's for himself, that's to do the other things in life that are important to him. People that have this issue of working too hard, it's because they don't know how to control their time. It's because they don't know how to manage their time effectively. So there are ways that you could learn how to be more productive, how to be more effective with your time, how to manage it better, get more done to where you don't feel this overwhelming sense of pressure to constantly work. I kind of disagree that even if you're working on your passion, that is it really work? Yeah, of course it's work. You're using your brain and everybody deserves some time away. If you're working on your passion and not working out at the gym, then yeah, you're working too much, of course. I still think that regardless of if you're doing something you love, I think that makes it easier to work more. It doesn't cause as much stress. But I still think that other things in your life sacrifice when you do that. So it's just a matter of thinking about what your priorities are. How much time do you want to be able to spend with your family? Do you want to be there for the important things that go on in their life to show support? Do you want to have time to go out and socialize with your friends? Do you want to have time for me time? All of that stuff deserves some level of balance, no matter what you do. That doesn't surprise me that this is number 2 on the list.
When people are like, no sleep gang, I used to be one of those people who were like, no sleep. I can sleep when I die. Well, I've always liked sleep, but when you first start a business, that's kind of what you do. And then I was talking to one of my business partners trying to tell them, like, you have to have some sort of rest. And they fought me for a while, but then I think they finally came around to realize, yeah, you do need adequate amount of sleep or else your brain can't function.
That is a topic I've talked with Ashley about. It needing its own episode. This whole idea of not sleeping, and you see people like Gary Vaynerchuk and Eric Thomas. We've mentioned both of them on our show before. They basically say if you really want something, you would sacrifice sleep. I disagree with that 100% because there's not a single scientist out there that studies human performance in the brain that agrees with them. When you're on lack of sleep, and this is a lot of people that overwork themselves, when you're on lack of sleep, you might as well be doing your work drunk, is essentially what the equivalence is to not having enough rest. I could go on a tangent for that forever, and I'm not going to, but the point, I'm glad you brought that up, Ashley, because that notion of team no sleep, it's like, well, you're just going to be doing shitty work for a very long period of time.
Right.
So how about you get team sleep, and for the hours that you are working, you're fucking crushing it, and you're effective, and you're at the top of your game. That's all I'm going to say about it right now, because that just pisses me off.
No disrespect to E.T.
Right, but I'm sure I would be willing to bet that part of that's a facade. And there's no way he can actually continue on a daily basis with that little sleep. No. I'm sure that he gets his rest. But the fact that I think that he uses his platform to like promote people not sleeping when there's not a single piece of data out there to support what he's saying, and it's actually harmful to our bodies not to do that. I just wish that people would think more about that. I think it's more of it sounds good. Team no sleep sounds good. Sleep when you die sounds good. It sounds like you're out there hustling, but you're hustling in a very shitty way when you do that. Let's move on to the next one. I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. I'm going to kick this one over to Ashley because a couple times in the past episodes, she's kind of mentioned her own personal stories and struggles about this concept in general. So Ashley, what 2 cents do you have to add to that?
I definitely agree that a lot of people, including myself, haven't always expressed their feelings when they need to at that time, and they bottle it up and they hold it in, and then something happens and they just freaking explode. Also, there's a balance to it. I've talked a lot about taking things personally. So I think we can really take this express your feelings thing and run with it. So when you have a situation where you want to express yourself, I don't think that you should hold back. It's how you feel. But I also think that we should take a moment to count down and reflect at how we're going to react. That way it doesn't cause a communication problem in the discussion or, hopefully not a fight that you're having with this person. So if, there's something that's said that, sparks your anger or stress, take a few seconds to think about it, reflect upon it before you say what you need to say, because sometimes we say stuff and it doesn't come off right, or we regret saying it, or we say something we don't necessarily always mean. So I think really expressing your feelings the right way is super important than just like always just saying what the fuck you want to say all the time, because a lot of times some things we say we're in our feelings and we're a little bit too deep into it. So I think if we can really figure out and be aware of why we're having that feeling, and then we can express them, it will come off a lot better.
I was listening to Mel Robbins in a Q&A session she had for this course I'm in with her, and she did bring up this idea of having difficult conversations. And I think a lot of people really try to avoid difficult conversations. And this goes hand in hand with not being able to really express yourself. Wanting to say something or having a feeling about something, and rather than speaking your opinion, you bottle it up, you let it fester, you let regret build up because of that. You let resentment build up because of that. And it causes a lot of strife in your personal relationships, no matter who the person on the other end is. And a lot of times that type of pent up anger can affect people that even you don't intend for it to affect, because it affects you personally. She said that it's not that people are worried about what they have to say. They're worried about the other person's reaction, because they can't control it. They have no idea what the other person's reaction is. And it's kind of that fear of the unknown, right? The fear of the uncertain part of, okay, if I say this, what's going to happen next? How is this other person going to react? And she basically said that if you're living in your truth, and you speak how you feel, you say how you feel about something, and that's your truth, then however the other person reacts is how they react. And you just have to live with that. But if you try to manufacture what you're going to say, make it sound less of how you feel, tone it down because you don't want to offend the other person. If you're trying to essentially manage their reaction or, how they behave to what you say, then that is then how they react and how they feel is 100% on you if you're not speaking with your truth. Mm-hmm. So I do think that you should pause and reflect on what you're going to say. But if any part of that is, well, maybe I shouldn't say it this way because I don't want to, or I'm worried about how this person is going to react. If that's not your truth, then I personally don't think, I actually thought what she said, I was like, holy shit, that's actually really great advice, because I know, me personally, I've been in situations where I have really thought about what it is that I'm going to say, how I'm going to say it, because I'm worried about the other person on the end of that conversation. And if what I'm saying is not really speaking my truth, then what good is that? So I think too that you got it's kind of like a countdown 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 thing where if you have a feeling, then express it. Start trying it. If you're somebody that pins up your feelings, I used to do this all the time. I would have somebody would piss me off. I wouldn't say it. I would just swallow it. And I think you have to pick your battles. You have to kind of start understanding, when you get older, there's okay, things that used to piss me off. Now I'm I can't believe I used to let that type of thing piss me off because it's real trivial. So I think as we mature, we start to learn those things. We come into awareness about, okay, what's worth being pissed off over? What's worth taking, if you're taking something personal. So I think we definitely need that analysis. But when it's something that is really important to you, kind of it speaks to your values or whatever the case may be, then you shouldn't hold back, definitely. So I definitely think there could be some balance there for sure. Mm-hmm. Any thoughts, since I just disclosed to you what Mel Robbins said, does that kind of change how you feel, Ashley, about the situation or expressing your feelings?
No, I think what I was saying is more of those times that you mentioned where we just let the littlest things get under our skin, or we just let something that maybe necessarily wasn't even an attack and we take it as an attack. That's more what I'm talking about. Yeah. And if you're thinking about, well, how is this person going to react and what are they going to say? I mean, we all do it. Then, I think that's not something that is authentic, because if you're worried about that person not being your friend anymore or not messing with you anymore, then I don't know. That's a tough spot, because are they really your friend, over something small? So it doesn't necessarily change my thoughts, but when you were saying, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. You know what I mean? It's another way to kind of analyze it. But I still think we should kind of be aware of, okay, is this an attack against me? Or is this something where I feel like I really do need to truly defend my point? And it kind of reminded me when Ayanna Van Zant, she's one of my favorite people. She has a ton of YouTube videos, and she always calls it, well, this is my experience. And so we all have our experience of a situation and what happens in that situation. And that doesn't mean that that's the other person's truth, or that doesn't mean that it's a true reality, but your perception is your reality. So for when she says that, it's well, this is my experience of the situation. What's your experience of this situation? Open communication and being able to hear and really listen, I think, is a key integral part of the regret. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And I was listening to I forget what school it was, but it was a really popular commencement speech. I don't even remember who gave it, but the point of it was about how when we analyze the world, it's always with ourselves at the center, which really speaks to taking somebody's actions or behaviors and taking it personal, because we're only thinking about how it affects us or how we interpreted something to be an attack or whatever. So I think that's a great point when it comes to expressing your feelings, not only A, being able to express them, but B, also sometimes thinking about how if you've been upset about something, I think once you do express yourself and say, this is my experience, you'll find that the other person oftentimes has a way different experience. Their perception of something was completely different, and it usually has nothing to do with you. So it's usually not a personal attack, or it's usually people are different. So I think that's a really the important reason we need to express ourselves is because you start to gain an understanding about that person on the other end. And if you hold it up and you don't say anything, then you just consistently think that these behaviors that are similar, that may be similar, are attacks, or you're taking them personal, or they hurt your feelings. Well, how can you actually work something out with another person if you don't speak your mind and you don't say how you feel, whether it's in a work setting, in your personal relationship, with your family or friends? I think it's worth being able to express yourself, but doing it so that you say, like Ashley said, this is my experience, but then also listening just as closely when you allow that other person to say how they feel. Now, not everybody's you might express your feelings and some people are going to blow up or they're not going to react. That's their problem. If they're not adult enough to have a conversation with you, that's their problem, not yours. I think the ending lesson here is, not to hold back on these kinds of things moving forward. Number 4, I wish I would have stayed in touch with my friends. I love this one because I have a lot of personal experience with it. I have friends that live all over the country. And so it does take work to stay in touch with people that are not in your immediate geographic proximity. I always just make sure that every once in a while, every month, every 2 months, maybe 3 months, I make a point to contact those people that are really close to me. And a lot of times I'm the only one that makes that effort in a relationship. And I think what the problem here for some people is if that's you, if you're the only one making the effort sometimes, you let that bother you. And you shouldn't. People are so busy. You might be thinking, well, if the friendship is just as important to them as it is to me, then they would make the effort too. But it's like, I don't agree with that because they're always happy when I make the effort. They're always like, I'm so glad you reached out to me, blah, 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 whatever the case may be. I think that's an important thing to remember. I think for some people, we're at that critical stage now in our lives where I know I'm in my 30s. I don't know who else is out there listening, but if you're in a similar age range, we're at that critical point in life where our friends are starting to we're getting married, having kids, they're getting married, having kids. And so sometimes your lives start to go on different trajectories and they start to go down different paths. And then so slowly you talk less, you see each other less. You can't do the same things you guys always used to do. But if that person is valuable, if that person's friendship is valuable to you, has value, then it's worth making an effort. And I think there was the largest Harvard study, I think it was over a course of 75 years or something, they were conducting the study. And they found that the single most important thing that determines a human's happiness in their life is those really close personal relationships with other people. Maintaining contact with your friends is worth it just simply for your own personal happiness. Ashley, do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I've definitely done the whole, I'm the one who always calls you, so I'm taking a freaking protest, you know what I mean? But as I've matured, I've gotten some friends that are very, very close to me that I consider like sisters, and some of them don't live here. So I take a few minutes to text them occasionally or inbox them on Facebook, and I'll be the one. That's fine. It doesn't mean that they love me any less. And that's that thing about taking it personally again, because you don't want to be the one always reaching out and seem like you're desperate or something. But if you guys are really truly friends and family, then it doesn't hurt to be the one to reach out all the time. And it kind of reminds me of this episode of Seinfeld. I'm a huge Seinfeld geek. So I have a friend, Rachel. We just became friends probably within the last year. I met her through another friend and we kind of clicked and we started hanging out. And we're both the type of people where it could be something so simple like, oh, let's go have coffee. And it would be like, that's okay. I have to work tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, what, F that. Like, let's just go hang out and have some coffee. Even if it's for like an hour, like it doesn't hurt anything. It's not like you're partying all night and getting drunk and then going to work the next day, and you're like 30 or 40. It just kind of gives us time to hang out and just enjoy each other's company and do something that we probably normally would have said no to. But it aligns with my values of coffee, so I say yes. But the Seinfeld episode I'm talking about it's like one of the first seasons, and it's called The Pony Remark. And in the episode, Jerry makes a remark and his great aunt like dies in the episode. And he's like, was it from the remark that I made? But anyways, and him and Elaine are reflecting on their lives and they're like, are we wasting time? And they're all sitting around having coffee. And Elaine's like, can't you just have coffee with people? So I don't know. I just thought of that episode and it's like hilarious.
So the point is, don't be that needy friend that is needing that personal connection like all the time. I think there's a balance there. I don't have any needy friends, thank God. But I just know that there are those friends out there that they do take it personal. They do need you to talk to them 3 times a week. And if you got a lot going on, sometimes that's too much. So find the balance between being the needy friend. I mean, I think once a month or once every 2 months is not being needy. Even if it's these days, it's so easy to like just send a text message to somebody and say, thinking of you, hope you're doing well, I miss you. That's it. I do that stuff all the time just because it's like, even if we can't pick up the phone and have a 20-minute conversation, I want them to know that I love them and I'm thinking about them. It's really, really easy. And then you do have to make a point to, if you do have friends that are not in your proximity or near you, you have to make a point to go see them every now and then, and vice versa. I think that's totally worth it because of the impact it has on your overall happiness, which I think this is a perfect segue to the last regret, which I think brings everything full circle that we've been talking about. And it was, I wish I had let myself be happier. I think everything we've been talking about is leading to happiness. You know what I mean? So a lot of the stuff is things that you're afraid to do that impact your happiness, or things that you wish you had done more of. And so I think this is obviously coming full circle. All of these things, not working as much, living the life that you want, staying in touch with your friends, expressing your feelings. That all impacts your level of happiness. And so I think the interesting thing, though, that I think the wording is important. I wish I let myself be happier. I think there's something to be said about letting yourself, letting go of the stupid, trivial things that you're taking personal, letting go of being the only one that contacts your friends or being upset about that. This is like giving yourself permission to be happy. Some people, I think that they have all the pieces are there, but they're not giving themselves permission to be happy. What do you have to say about that?
And that's true. I mean, you don't have to wait for the end game to be happy. Even if you're working a job that you don't like, find some happiness. Maybe look for a new job. When you're off work, be happy. Don't let that stress carry over to when you're not there working. I think it takes that maturity level to let yourself and give yourself the permission to be happy. Because a lot of times we walk around with an attitude for no damn reason. Like, the other people don't care. We're just walking around with an attitude because we feel like, oh, the world revolves around me. So we don't have to wait for success to happen. Progress to me is success. And I know a lot of other people have said that. So just let it be.
Yeah, and that kind of goes along with the script we mentioned in the very first episode about this idea of working really hard, whether it's in school, whether it's in your job, to make more money so you can retire and be happy. And happiness is something delayed in the future. And so I think that's kind of just like I said, the script that we've been fed, the things that we think that that's how life is supposed to go. But at the end of the day, we're all responsible for how we feel every night when our head hits the pillow. I'll tell you a story. For instance, this weekend we were camping for 4th of July. It's in the country, so there's like no traffic. We're on a dirt road. I was letting my 12-year-old stepson get some driving practice, and he got my car stuck in the mud. And because I told him that he could try to drive through the mud and we should have drove around it. In the beginning, my dad was all frustrated because there's like 5 or 6 people that had to like push my car out and get it out of the mud. And it took like 15 extra minutes. And so I was just looking at him kind of be frustrated. And I had to say to him, I'm like, Dad, like, relax. Okay, we're going to get my car out. This is going to make for a really good story. I've been in so many situations where easily something could have frustrated me, or I pause and say, I can get my car stuck in the mud and be pissed, or get my car stuck in the mud and find a way to make light of it. Either fucking way, my car is stuck in the mud. You can't always change what's right in front of you, but you can always change how you react to it. And so I think that's a super important lesson about letting ourselves be happy. We get to choose how we react to things. We get to choose how long we let stuff bother us. We get to choose when we feel gratitude or when we feel that feeling of happiness. it's an interesting concept. I just picked up on that. Like, I wish I had let myself be happy. Not that I wish I was happier. We have everything we need. If we sat here and thought about the ways in the world that a lot of other people are living, they live on way less. You always see those videos of the kids that are like living in poverty in other countries. They don't even have running water, but they're sitting there having a ball and they're dancing and they're just enjoying their life as is in that moment. And we look at it like, if that was our lives, we would be stressed. Some people would commit suicide because of not having that, losing a lot of that stuff financially. But happiness is a choice, and we can choose to be happy now. So I think that's a revelation that we just had because we were allowing ourselves to kind of freestyle this. And another thing too that I want to say about having the courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's not being fearless, right? If you don't have fear around something and you do it, what does that mean? Okay, so you're not afraid and you go do it, whoop-de-doo. Courage is having that fear or being afraid and doing it anyways. And I know the word courage came up in a lot of these. I wish I had the courage to live a life that was true to myself, or I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. That's not being fearless. That's being afraid, but doing it anyways. So I think that's a good place to kick it off. Should we go into the action steps, or do you have anything else you want to add? Well, so the first thing is, of course, you guys know we have a life designer toolkit. A lot of this stuff, living life to your fullest, to the life that you want to have, we can help you start that process of thinking about what you want and going after it by downloading our life designer toolkit. There's a new update in the toolkit, and it's about making a live list. We want to get rid of the term bucket list because bucket list has to do with kicking the bucket, which means dying. And so I think our notion of a bucket list feeds into that happiness delayed, right? Retirement. Happiness can't be until then. Don't make a bucket list, make a live list. Make a list of the things that you want to do now. And then there's schedule some me time, not working so hard. When it comes to expressing your feelings, when you get that urge to say something to somebody, if you are in the habit of swallowing it and repressing it, count down from 5 and say it anyways and see what happens. Because a lot of times you might realize that it's not necessarily as bad as you anticipate. But always think of it from the angle that Ashley said, this is my experience. So that way the other person on the other end understands that this is how you interpreted whatever it is. Another
action step is schedule a time to call your friends. Call, text them, commit time to a friend. Maybe try it, see what you think. I think everyone will really appreciate it, and you guys will be closer. And then also make yourself the live list. I'm going to do that, definitely. Not like a bucket list, but a live list, so you can enjoy your life now, not later.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you next week.
Peace.